Joe Burrow and the Bengals are looking to bounce back after a tough loss in Week 8, and as they are hosting the Las Vegas Raiders here. My name is Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and we're going to break down this Week 9 matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders and Cincinnati Bengals. But before we get into that, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win this game and why. We have a goal of getting 100 new subscribers for these Week 9 prediction videos we have going out, and any help is greatly appreciated. So, Ryan, Bengals team here looking to bounce back after a tough loss against the Philadelphia Eagles, who are looking like they're coming to form. So, wouldn't be surprised if this loss isn't as shocking, maybe come the end of the season with how good this Eagles team on paper should be. But the Bengals team, though, too, they're dealing with some key injuries, especially, too, on the defensive side of the ball. Defense has been a little bit weaker, but I think they're going to have a favorable matchup here going against the Las Vegas Raiders, who lost to the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 8. And probably going to be selling a couple more pieces here come the trade deadline in about 9 or 10 days. So I want to throw it over to you. What do you think of both of these two teams about halfway through the season before the trade deadline, and what each team needs to do to keep their playoff hopes alive?
Yeah, I mean, I think the playoff hopes for the Las Vegas is pretty much done. I don't think there's a lot that they're going to be able to do to kind of salvage those. I am really curious to see kind of what this offense continues to shape up like. That, like I like Jacoby Myers as a Patriots fan. I was kind of sad to see him go, but they have Trey Tucker. Alexander Madison is kind of that veteran running back in the room. But Brock Bowers looks legit. He's one of the top just receiving targets as a whole now in the NFL, and not just like as a tight end. So I think they have a good offensive base to kind of build around. And so going from there, I still think defensively, this is a pretty good defensive team kind of led by Max Crosby. I think Antonio Pierce does a good job that way on that side of the ball. They just right now need youth at quarterback. This offensive line is decent. And so they're more just building for the future. Whereas I think you go look Cincinnati, I mean, they're really, this last game was not close, but if you go look at like some of their last, like their first 6 games, or 6 or 7 games, they really are just like a couple plays away from being at the top of the AFC North right now. And so this is a really good team. This defense isn't as good as they have been in the past. We kind of saw last year this run defense started to falter, and now like this defense as a whole is starting to falter a little bit. Well, not a little bit, a lot of it, especially against the Eagles. But like they're just not quite that consistent defense that they were. But this offense is firing on all cylinders. They have a lot of pass catching weapons. They're actually running the ball decently well as well. So like I think this is just a really good offense, and if they're going to win, especially against some of these better teams, they're going to have to outscore them, because I think this defense is only going to be good for a few stops a game, for sure.
Well, and to be completely honest, that's kind of all they need. Like they didn't have T. Higgins in this last week's game as kind of a late scratch, but you're absolutely right, though. You go and look at their schedule, and should have beat your Patriots, barely lost to Kansas City on a last-second field goal, barely lost to Washington.
I'll push back that they should have beat – like, going into that game, they should have beat the Patriots. The Patriots were the better team that day, but that's just because Cincinnati didn't show up at all.
Yeah, but it's barely lost to Baltimore in that crazy overtime game as well. Like, there's literally 4 plays go differently throughout the entire Cincinnati Bengals season, and that could have been their first loss of the season so far. So there's a lot of hope, especially too in an AFC team, which is very polarizing of like you're a good team or you're a bad team. I think the Bengals are, as of right now, on the outside looking in, and they're really, to me, the only team I think that can kind of go into that, like that can work their way into the playoffs here. But I think the pass catching weapons that you're talking about as well, like T. Higgins was out, but Andre Oshavas has been playing well. Mike Gesicki has been a good tight end addition, providing solid catches, solid stats as well. I think Chase Brown is working his way into eventually being kind of the premier back for the team, maybe after the season, as he's still splitting carries with Zach Moss. Defense is going to be a liability, especially in the secondary as well. You still have Trey Hendrickson and company in that front 7, but going up though against some of these top teams, the offense is going to have to keep on clicking because they're going to have to win some of these games in shootouts. Luckily for them, though, they're going to be going up against a Raiders team that traded away Devontae Adams, has Gardner Minshew as quarterback, and even to supposedly there's reports that Desmond Ridder might be the quarterback, actually, a guy that they signed off the practice squad just a couple weeks ago. So as a Falcons fan, I can tell you that that's probably going to lead to a win for the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't want to jinx it for y'all, but just saying. But then on the flip side, too, just dealing with a bunch of injuries as well. The Raiders cannot run the ball. Andre James, their offensive lineman, he left the game with an ankle injury as well. So that's not going to help their case at all. Robert Spillane also got hurt in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs, their middle linebacker. Haven't seen anything just yet on his overall status, but need to monitor that throughout the week. His helmet came off pretty quickly during the game, and so just need to update that. Let me know in the comments of any stat or any changes to that overall. But I just think when I look at Cincinnati and this team, and this offense has weapons and is clicking, and this Raiders team can really struggle to put up some points. Just a lot of dysfunction, I think, going on the offensive side of the ball, especially too since they can't run the ball at all. I think the only team worse at running the ball this season, I think, might be the Dallas Cowboys. And that's saying something too. Yeah, the Las Vegas Raiders, as of right now, 31st overall, with exactly averaging 79 yards per game rushing, which is kind of shocking. It's shocking, actually, that they're not the worst. With averaging less than 80 yards per game, they're not the worst rushing offense. But they don't really have a running back, but at the same time, too, your offensive line has got to play well also to help block for your running backs. And so I just think kind of going into the game here, Cincinnati Bengals just going to match up really well, and they're hosting the Raiders here. We are starting to get kind of into that point. Bengals have played a lot better in November and December, just historically. I know each season is different, but I think this is going to be maybe the start of that trend for the Bengals team of them getting some more wins, getting some better, more quality wins because they host the Raiders here, but then they go on the road to Baltimore in Week 10. Then they go on the road to the Chargers in Week 11, who has a good defense. Then they have a bye in Week 12. But then Pittsburgh in Week 13, which is a big game, at Dallas, at Tennessee, two absolutely winnable games. They host Cleveland. They can win that game also. Then they host Denver, which has good defense, and at Pittsburgh. That's the rest of their season as well. So absolutely some winnable games, but they want to win this one, get just right below 500 here so they can set themselves up for a minimum being in a good spot to get a wild card come January.
That was kind of my thing coming into this. And just to get in predictions here, I'm going to go with Cincinnati. For me, this is a must-win game for Cincy. If they don't come out on top of this one, they'd be 3-6. A 500 record does not put you like a 500 record through the rest of the season does not put you close to a wild card spot. They need to win this one, and then they need to be what would that be? Week 9. So there's 8 games left. They need to be at least they need to be at least 5-3. Even if they win this one, I think to be 9-8 to go into to get a wild card spot.
Yeah,
right? Because they'd be 4-5.
The AFC shaping up, I think that's possible. 9-8 can get you in. And so I'm also going to go with Cincy as well. I think for a lot of the reasons that I had stated earlier, I think they match up well against them. Defense will be able to lock down this Raiders offense that just isn't good. I will say this, though, calling an out prediction, and if you're still at this point in the video, you'll have to subscribe if this comes true. If the Bengals lose this game, do not be surprised if T. Higgins is traded before the trade deadline, which is 2 days after this Week 9 game. So, because if they lose this game, to your point, they'll be 3-6, and I think the Bengals will be like, we might not be able to re-sign. I will say this:
they're not going to re-sign him.
For even like the Patriots, you guys will send him $25 million.
Yeah,
because you guys
they're not. They franchise tagged him last year, and he has been very vocal that he does not want. He did not want to be franchise tagged last year, and so like there are a lot of teams like the Patriots have over almost $130 million in cap space this upcoming year. They have no problem, I think, giving a guy like T. Higgins $30 million a year because I think he's a better receiver than Calvin Ridley was in last offseason. So I think they could recoup some value for him. And all in all, it's going to be an interesting fallout in Cincinnati because I think if they go 3-6, I think Zach Taylor's job would be in jeopardy. It's
defensive coordinator's job will be in jeopardy, and so I just think even like for your Patriots, for example, there's a lot of teams that need receivers who will pay T. Higgins money, and for the Bengals team as well, they are going to need to reestablish and send some money on the secondary as well, kind of keep improving on that offensive line, which has been better. They have drafted good talent like Andre Yoshavash. I think can kind of take that number 2 spot as well, as he's been having a solid season.
Yeah.
So I think T. Higgins can be on the move if they lose this game. However, that being said, I don't think they're going to lose this game. I am not projecting them to do that.
Yeah. So we're both taking the Bengals. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead. Will it be the Las Vegas Raiders? Will it be the Cincinnati Bengals? Other than that, we will see you guys next time.